Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, mid morning, mid afternoon. Pick a time and we're in there. Welcome back to Passion World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And today on State of Current Affairs, we're going to be speaking about luxury goods and services. Are they beyond the normal person's reach? And you've heard about the movie The Day After. And although we're not having freezing weather or the Antarctica move in with us, it could be the same results. The United States has spoken, and Donald Trump was reelected a second term. And to begin the program this morning, Viki Esther Chang from Singapore.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and if you are scrolling through my Facebook, you are watching State of Current Affairs live on uh, Madam Lillian Cauldwell's LinkedIn, which is of the same name, LinkedIn at Lillian Cauldwell, and myself, Viki Esther Chang, at Facebook, Facebook group, the Platinum Platform, and over live at Passionate World Talk Radio. And this is Vicky Chang. It is 10:15 p.m. here in Singapore on a Monday evening. And hello to you. We are going to dive into two of the most important topics. But before you do and I do, if you do see us here, right, you are watching State of Current Affairs. And please share with as many friends as possible. So I'm just going to show you. Please share this show with as many people as possible. It's live right now, and I think everyone can see that's live on Facebook. So, ladies and gentlemen, very exciting. I've got two very significant topics today. Number one, we've got the morning after or the week after the American election because we were all gripping at our seats. One year ago, we were thinking, is Donald Trump going to run? Is he not going to run? And if he's going to run, how he's going to run? And if he's going to win, right? All eyes were on Donald Trump, and all eyes were on the American election. And of course, I'm going to talk about luxury, the luxury stocks, about Louis Vuitton, and also Gucci bags, etc. We're going to talk about some of these luxury companies, what's happening to them. But even before we start, Lillian, thank you for the show, State of Current Affairs. I like to talk about this article. Go to the first article at thisismoney.co.uk, thisismoney.co.uk, and you can look at the latest article on um, Louis Vuitton. It says Louis Vuitton and Givenchy owner LVMH crashes to a new 2-year low amid slowdown in the luxury sector. LVMH shares crashed to a 2-year low yesterday after a dismal update that laid bare the slowdown hitting the luxury sector. And with this, very quickly, it says the slump has wiped out for 61 billion, which is 49% stake. And 49% stake is a lot for any company. So that was 61 billion of the shares since April to October, even though currently it's still worth 123 billion. Now think about that, Lillian. I've got a couple of articles below. That's the first article that says Louis Vuitton. Another article still regarding the biggest luxury brand in the world. You can find over at the link luxonomy.net/luxury. Luxonomy, LUXONOMY.net.luxury. It says the great luxury stocks crash. The European sector lost 32.3 billion. And when it lost 32 billion, at that time it was at the beginning of the year. And now in October, it has lost 49% of its stock price. And it was over 61 billion it has lost over this year alone. And even though it's still worth about 123 billion, we're talking about like 49% of the value is gone, dissipated. A couple of things is attributed. Why did the luxury stocks crash in the European sector? The crash appears to be driven by fears about a softening US economy impacting sales, and also about China. And if China, traditional Chinese shoppers will return to luxury shopping, and knowing that majority of the stocks and the sales is actually being sold in China, and China is the biggest consumer of luxury goods. A couple of things. I think these two articles suffice. It tells us that the world consumes luxury goods like never before, and I'd like to explain that the boom of luxury goods consumerism really started during the pandemic, because during pandemic there was such a lockdown, and when people were able to buy goods online, that's when it all started. They went online and they bought these luxury goods through live stream sales, or through podcasts, or through just through the e-commerce websites. And that is when during that pandemic it starts to boom. And post pandemic, when people start to leave their homes during 2021, remember 2020 was a lockdown, 2021, 2022, that's when the post pandemic revenge buying started. If Lillian remembered, everyone just hit the stores. They bought clothes, they bought bags, they bought shoes, they bought makeup, because they were all locked down. They were looking like crazy women at home. So if you do remember those times, we call it the revenge buying. And people were flying all around the world. All the airlines were booked because people just needed to either go back to their homes, go back to their work, wherever the countries were, because they were locked down before, or just start traveling. So that's what we call the revenge buying or the revenge travel. And now into 2023 and 2024, that revenge buying, revenge consumerism, or the revenge travel has actually simmered. So I'd like to give an example. During 2021 into early part of 2022, when I was doing my podcast live, I have the luxury of watching all these live stream shows, live sales. There was this very famous comedian in Singapore. He actually went over to Paris in the late part of 2021 and early part of 2022, and it was actually selling off these shops. I'm talking about Gucci. We're talking about LV. We're talking about these big brands that was in Paris, and it was selling off these live streams because the luxury companies were on lockdown, right? And then people started revenge buying. So he was at the point of people started revenge buying, and I was looking at live sales, Lillian, and I'm talking to the listeners and the viewers out there. I'm talking to you, and we are doing a show like this. And I watched live on my handphone in a cool 2 hours, right? In Singapore time, he sold about $2 to $3 million worth of the Gucci bags. And the Gucci bags were all luxury bags. We're talking about $5,000 or more. He was selling them, and people were pinging and say that I want this, and they were paying instantly online. And by it was actually by PayPal or to the bank transfer immediate. And it was just going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Now that was those times, and we still have a little bit of those very good live sales here in Singapore, because live sales is booming like crazy. But we're talking about those times when we were talking about the revenge buying period, mid-pandemic and post-pandemic times, when people they were flush with so much cash because they did not have the opportunity to leave their homes to consume or buy off anything. So when they had a chance to buy off something, either on the internet or in the streets, they did that even before flying. Remember those times we were on lockdown and we were started to get out of our homes, and the planes were starting, the airports were starting to get up to fly again. People were starting again. So that's when the revenge buying happened, and I saw it with my cool eyes within 2 hours, right? About $3 million worth of bags were just flying off the air in the digital air, and it went ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And the person who sold it on behalf, like a reseller in those shops in Paris, was a comedian in Singapore, and it was like, whew, how could women be doing that? I mean, it could be women buying it, or it could be the men buying it for their wives or their girlfriends. It just went crazy. There was no stopping. From 2022 to about 2023 last year, that kind of revenge buying still kind of sustained itself until the mid part of 2023 to 2024 this year. It kind of started to simmer down. It simmered down, but it's still really good as compared to brick and mortar stores. If you understand, when you go to live stream, you can have like 5,000 people, 10,000 people looking at you, and if you convert that to just one person out of 10 person buying it, you get a ka-ching every minute. And we're talking about in Singapore live streams where the live stream sellers were really just selling for like 2 hours and all their goods are sold. I mean, every night, even right now. And of course, we're talking about different kinds of goods, luxury goods and non-luxury goods. Now, at those times, luxury goods was like almost 90%. Right now, like luxury goods was down the dumps. It's more like what is being sold online is really like everyday things like food, your cakes that can be delivered from door to door within a day or two because it's still within the territory of Singapore, or very quickly around the region. But really, the luxury goods market has really dived nosedive. So one of the reasons I would say, that Lillian, I think you have said rightly or correctly, you know, um, luxury goods is luxurious, right? I mean, it is for people with huge disposable income. When you're talking about in economics term, disposable income means your income, whatever you get at the end of the year, your annual income, less of minus of your daily necessities, your goods and services that you need to sustain yourself, and leaving whatever additional excess income that you can spend on other things, disposable. So luxury income, it's really for spending on things that are non-essentials. And at that time, post pandemic, that revenge buying, right, really, retail was the only therapy for people's minds. People were really going crazy during the pandemic. So I think people has become, number one, sane. It has simmered down and cooled down. I think number three, I would say that people have not been wanting to buy off luxury brands because consumers have become more discerning, because there are so many goods, so many things that are of high quality without the slap of a label. And we now understand that the label and the brand, whichever it is only made up because of marketing. And that's where the marketing dollars went, right? Billions and billions of marketing, promotion, etc. So I think people start to compare, like, okay, I think I'm able to get the good quality um, bags or clothes, X number of things, and comparing online. Because when you go online, you are able to compare it instantaneously. This website plus another 10 websites. You start to become discerning. You don't go into a store physically only, because when you go to into a physical store, you can only go to one store at a time. But think about e-commerce, and that's why e-commerce is booming like crazy in many parts of the world. In Asia, in Indo-Pacific, even in America, people are buying off like eBay and Amazon. Just like me, I bought some of the things. I never even opened the pack, and another thing is being shipped, because we are able now to compare 10 similar items across the different various platforms simultaneously or simultaneously. Customers review, customers' feedback, commentary, and even consumers are uploading their own experience in a form of a video up there. If people do go e-commerce sites, even in Amazon, they will say, yes, I like it. Yes, I don't like it. I don't like it because the material is a little bit flimsy. You look at this, the thread came down. Or some people can say, yes, I like it because it's suitable for me in this part of the world. It is not so thick. So you as a consumer now, not only you've got so many sites to compare across the sites, the similar good, similar quality, and the price range, plus you've got genuine, authentic consumers review. And consumers review, you can't run away, because they are from across the globe, and they can tell you they are either from Hungary or Romania, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, Canada, North America, etc. And then you can actually judge for yourself whether you still want it. And a lot of times I still buy clothes. I mean, I did my first e-commerce retail started with Victoria's Secret. I bought clothes from Victoria's Secret that was shipped from the US to Singapore. That started like about 10 years ago. That was when e-commerce wasn't that popular, as widespread or as popular right now. I started with Victoria's Secret because it was a brand that doesn't have a retail presence in this part of the world, in Singapore. So I paid a high price for a shipment. But compare it to now, in these times, there isn't a barrier of entry. Consumers are more knowledgeable, consumers are more aware, then we are now able to compare, hey, that bag that I used to buy like $5,000, $10,000 from the LV website, I can buy a similar one for over just $100, just from another website. And other customers have actually testified that, hey, it looks all right. So I think we have grown to be more mature as consumers because we're more aware. Number two, yeah, we are more aware, we are smarter now. And I think the other point is that I think people are more concerned about where the dollar goes, because we do not know how the world economy is headed. Even though we say that the luxury market has gone down because US consumers do not know how the economy is going to go. But hey, just last week, um, with the election of Donald Trump, I mean, the stock price has just gone way up. And if you look at the money that's pouring into US since the day that Donald Trump was elected, just last weekend, just a few days ago, the money has all gone out. And I'm going to talk about your election, Lillian, not from the US point of view, but from the world feedback, so that and your listeners and your viewers can encapsulate this within the next like 3 minutes or so. What's the world's response? So you don't have to look at the news. Number one, this article, atlanticcouncil.org, what the world thinks of Trump's return to the US presidency. So I'm just going to give feedback, right? All these countries. The first country, it says, many Ukrainians see Trump's victory as a risk to US support for Ukraine. The second term presidency could be a leap into the unknown for Ukraine and its fight against Russia. And in Europe, there is a big question mark. Is this an opportunity for Europe to grow up and to be more independent and not so reliant on the US leadership? That's from Europe. And from Israel, Israeli politicians celebrate Trump's victory, but should be careful what they wish for. Next, Poland. Poland hopes to be recognized at last as an anchor of European defense because it is sitting in between Europe and Russia. Next, Australia. The news coming out from Australia. The US Australia alliance agreement have enduring support no matter the heated rhetoric. So it touts about the US and an Australian alliance. Next, from Germany, amid their own turmoil, Germans fear the what Germans fear are rising about the future of NATO. Next country, Serbia. Serbian President basked in Trump's victory. And in Iraq, Iraqi Kurdistan worries about rising US Iran tensions. Sweden questions around support for Ukraine trade weigh heavily in Sweden. Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia sees continuity in the US China relationship with fears of escalation. India. India sees uncertainty but also opportunities for trade. A lot of countries. Istanbul, Turkey. Trump and Erdogan will get along, the president of Turkey, but unpredictability is a concern, like Trump. Next. Okay, there are more countries, but I think that kind of summarizes a couple of things that stands out from world's reaction. Uncertainty, unpredictability, and countries need to be more independent and not rely on America's protection. For them, particularly this set of Europe, certain countries are happy if they're more from the right, I should say. If they're on the right, they are happier. But if they're in the middle or on the left, they're a little bit more worried. They are a little bit worried. But I should say that here Germany says there is a fear, there is rising fear among about the relationship with US and NATO. So that's the article with the world. And about Singapore, okay, again, before I go into Singapore, China says that's mutual respect. China says we will continue to approach and handle China US relations based on the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win win cooperation. Russia, it says, we are under no illusion about American president elect. It will work with the new U.S. administration and prioritizing its goals set in Ukraine. Um, so that's about the world and Russia's response to U.S. winning. Now, in Singapore, even before Trump was elected, there was a warning. It says that a Trump winning would slow down global growth. That's what Singapore says. It will slow down global growth, and the reason it says America is emphasizing on America first market, and it's increasing its protectionism for its market, for American market. And if you know what it means tariffs, and that's the favorite word by Trump. And it also means that Trump wants more investment into the U.S. instead of America investing in the rest of the world. And because protectionism, American first economy um, is nationalistic, and the, the policy of tariffs does increase the prices of goods coming in. It does mean that the rest of the world is going to be more expensive. It's going to be harder for consumers to buy whatever goods for these goods that's coming into the US. So that's the effect of tariffs. Tariffs is almost like a tax on all the goods that's coming into the US. So the US consumers will have to pay higher prices for goods that's going into America, and also for um, particularly for goods that's coming for certain countries like in China, tariffs are going to be higher. But also, America, like Trump, would like the production and manufacturing to be anchored back into America to create manufacturing, etc. So I would say that from Americans' point of view, you will be able to see American goods becoming cheaper vis-a-vis importing goods, because imported goods do have tariffs. Um, so it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. It does mean that certain goods are going to be more expensive for the American consumers if you were to buy foreign-made goods because of the tariffs. But it also means that American goods could be seen as cheaper. That's why it is an American first policy, because you're geared towards buying your own goods because they seem to be cheaper vis-a-vis imported goods. So that's the market that I'm saying from Singapore. It will probably slow down global economic growth. So over to you. Very two intensive or intense topics today for our listeners and the viewers. Over to you, Lillian.
We are going to wrap it up. We're 3 minutes before we need to end today's podcast. We will continue the state of current affairs with these two topics tomorrow, and you'll hear the U.S. response. However, food for thought. What Viki said, people not in the U.S. should really start thinking about. Very quickly, Trump is thinking fascism. We already fought it once in World War II under Hitler and Mussolini. Think about that tonight. And number 3, they are predicting that foreign investors will flock to the United States and buy, which is what Japan has already done and China has done and will continue to do. So think about that as well. Should you decide to see this podcast all over again, State of Current Affairs with Viki, Esther, Chang, Singapore, Lillian, Cauldwell from Reading, Pennsylvania, go over to passionateworldtalkradio.com/. Just go down to State of Current Affairs, scroll down to the bottom, click on it, takes you to the page underneath the form to leave your comments about the show. There is a link, Google link, click on that, and that'll take you right into YouTube. You can see it immediately, or go and visit the blog over on the same website, passionateworldtalkradio.com/blog. Provides you with an audio of today's show, plus additional information should you desire to read more up on it. I want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. And remember, too, that everyone can make a change, but you cannot be timid. If you want to be heard, remember the movie called The Mouse That Roared. Look it up, Hollywood film history, and take a lesson from a film that really nailed it. Thank you very much for joining us, and have an awesome day.